is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me just make comments of more of a general nature rather than specifically to the legislation in front of us, because we have worked on this a lot in the Energy and Commerce Committee. Of course, all of us have anecdotes from our communities back home. Mr. Chairman, I will also say that 10 years ago, I remember sitting in a hearing in Energy and Commerce where we heard from people whose pain wasn't managed properly. The doctors weren't doing enough to manage their pain, and it was a morning full of vilifying the nation's physicians because they weren't doing enough to manage pain. And then 10 years later, here we are talking about, doggone it, our doctors are prescribing too much of this stuff, and we just got to get it out of their hands. We do need to remember that we as members of Congress really should not be practicing medicine. Now, the gentlelady from Texas mentioned prescription drug monitoring programs. I am fully on board and fully in favor of prescription drug monitoring programs. I think they should be more robust than they are now. Our Energy and Commerce Committee has authorized a prescription drug monitoring program that has never been funded in the appropriations process. We have a program that is run through the Department of Justice, which has no health care bearing at all. And really, if we were serious about this, we would fund the authorized program. We always criticize ourselves for appropriating things that were not authorized. Well, here we have a program that's authorized that I think could do a lot of good, and we don't fund it. So that is, when we get to our appropriations work later on this year, I hope we can actually address that. The electronic health records that came to us through the stimulus bill, there is no way to query through the electronic health record the prescription drug monitoring program, so a physician is forced to then cross-check references as to whether or not a prescription may be appropriate for a given patient. Look, any of us who have been in the practice of medicine, who have covered for other physicians nights, weekends, holidays, yes, it always comes up, someone who sounds like they're in desperate need and turns out to be abusing the system and obtaining medication either fraudulently or for diversion. That's where those prescription drug monitoring programs can be so helpful, to be able to query a database, not for law enforcement purposes, but for healthcare purposes, so that a physician can know that he or she is not prescribing now the 600th Vicodin tablet that week for a patient. I hope those medicines then would be diverted, because if someone took that much acetaminophen, that much Tylenol, their liver's a dead duck. These are serious medications, and they require serious monitoring. We need to make sure our physicians are empowered to do that monitoring and let's not put obstacles in their way. But I do appreciate the spirit in which these bills have come to the Rules Committee today. I appreciate the spirit in which they came through the Energy and Commerce Committee. It is appropriate. Again, we all have anecdotes from back in our districts from a young life cut short from an inappropriate exercise with one of these medications, whether it was prescribed or taken off prescription. The results can be absolutely devastating. I do so also appreciate Mr. Issa bringing up the end-of-life considerations. The very fact that these medications will depress respiratory drive can in fact ease the person who is at the end of life, who is having a great deal of difficulty because the consequences of their terminal condition mean that they are desperately uncomfortable in their search for air. These drugs can actually ameliorate that, and I've seen it firsthand. It is, and have a family that is able to be with a loved one to the end and not see them in desperate difficulties. So, Mr. Issa, I appreciate you bringing that up, and we need to be careful that we don't interfere with that as well. Mr. Chairman, this is a good hearing. I'm glad you're having it. I thank our witnesses for being here. I look forward to the other testimony that will come today. I'll yield back.
I want to thank the gentleman and state, and I think that what you said was absolutely correct. I think what's been stated by our panel here, and I hope I said the same thing, I do have confidence in my doctor, in the medical community. I do have confidence in them, and I know you and I have talked about this issue a number of times, and we do want our physicians to have answers for us. I think this is, as much as anything, a good conversation we're having with the American people, and we're going to take action. We're going to be able to talk about it. We're going to be able to acknowledge it, and I think that that is worthy of of you being here, and Mike Burgess has for a long time, not only as an advocate for physicians, but an advocate for responsibility by patients, also been very open to this. And I think it excludes, it includes families also, and communities now who are part of this discussion. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Yields back. It's time the gentleman from Massachusetts, you recognized.
I'm not